It's The Perfect Union, the perfect podcast for the perfect country, brought to you by your perfect host, Hank Thompson, for you, the perfect listener. Hello, everybody. Perfect Union is the politics wing of Winners and Losers Enterprises and Apocalypse training courses. Don't forget to sign up for our upcoming class, Signing Up for Stuff. Will pencils and pens survive the apocalypse? Only one way to find out. Chalk will be the last to... see, I'm getting bad at these apocalypse training course jokes. I don't even know if I was ever any good at them. Hi there, everybody. It's me, Hank. We're doing a show Friday afternoon here in America, Electionstan, as it is now called. Race is still not over, although Friday here now is been a much more positive day emotionally for those of us who are hoping for Trump to get booted out of our lives and our heads, which of course will never happen because he will haunt us from the books, articles, videos, movies, shows, documentaries, and every piece of media about politics for the next 50 to 120 years. So, got him. No, but it's good. It's a much better day. Biden is on the way. We're almost free. We can go back to watching Gallagher specials on Comedy Central. We can go back to brunch. We can go back to investing in bulletproof backpack futures like I've been doing. And frankly, I'm a little frustrated by this whole fucking pandemic because I spent my entire life savings, $57 on bulletproof backpack futures, and they have tanked. I borrowed some money from my dad, 1 million pennies. What is that? That's actually a lot of money, right? That's like $1,000, right? Or is that a lot? 100? What is it? And I bought more backpack, and now that they're really cheap. So I want this pandemic over. We can get back to normal, and I will make so much money when parents go buy tactical military protective gear so that they can send their 6-year-old to school, just like we do in America. It's a tradition here in this country. We traumatize children whenever possible because traumatized kids become difficult adults, and difficult adults are too busy dealing with bad coping skills and the various messes that their broken relationships result in. That was not good English there, sorry. And they become non-voters and then they become more pliable employees. Oh God, this is it's terrible. Return to normal. The point I'm trying to make is we can't go back to normal. We do not need to go back to normal. Mark Hamill, my king, caught a little heat for tweeting that all he wants to do is get rid of this guy so he can go back to normal. And that's okay. He's Luke Skywalker. He saved humanity. Okay? He was a hero. I do actually have this idea to do a Luke Skywalker spinoff or a Star Wars spinoff where Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru faked their deaths just to get rid of their annoying son, their annoying nephew, who they've been forced to adopt. Wouldn't that be funny? Like the camera lingers, a shot of like the skeletons in the bonfire in Star Wars, and then Uncle Owen or Luke like flies off with his robot pal or whatever, the Boston Dynamics C-3PO, and then like Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru kind of like crawl out from behind one of the houses, and then they have a dance party. All right, so yes, you could tell I'm a little scattered, a little out of it. I didn't prepare much for this, although I've been preparing for this my whole life. I think I added an extra prep in that word. This whole week, I've been wanting to turn on the mic and podcast and get on there. And I've done it on Twitch a little bit, twitch.tv/winners and losers. I drew an orange and an onion from scratch this week and also made some progress on a video game. It's a good little way to like kind of just spill some thoughts out. It's sort of like an overflow runoff of like a reservoir. And boy, oh boy, has this week been peak refilling reservoir week. It hasn't. It's been a really fucking tiring, emotionally exhausting. This whole Trump nightmare. It is almost over. I think there's still a few big thrashes left in the GOP. So let's go through. Hopefully I can remember to get back to that. But here, let me type a note to myself. Big thrashes. And no, that is not the name of my skateboard-based punk band, although it should be. When was the election? Tuesday, Monday, Saturday. So this whole fucking experience, Hank, don't swear so much. Come on, trying trying to attract investors. This whole weekend, I'm going to weave my own personal bullshit into that. And if you're a listener to the show, you know that's exactly what I do. I've been doing healthy eating and healthy, like at least better, like much better eating, but also like trying to sleep a little better, not look at my phone. But as we've gotten closer to the election, my nerves were just really on overdrive, and I've got a lot of nerves. My body's one of those. I think I got like 20% more nerves. I don't know. I'm always so fucking sensitive to everything, not just emotionally, but like everything just feels a little too intense. Who knows where along the information processing cascade that would act, whatever reality there might be in that, in terms of more nerves. It's either more sensitivity or more processing. One of those two, something like that. My God, keep going, Hank. So I reverted to some stressful eating habits, like pizza and ice cream and stuff. So I erased all the progress I'd made Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And of course, I'm swearing off eating the shitty food. But the election starts rolling up. Things are feeling really tense and worrisome. Who knows what kind of violence is happening? It was just utterly gobsmacking that these monsters and the GOP can just so blatantly exploit this system by just, damaging the post office, making sure mail isn't going to be delivered. They knew that the mail-in voters, which the military has been using since the Civil War, was going to lean towards Biden. One reason they knew that is because they've been busy telling all their voters not to vote it by the mail. So precisely so that they could pull the bullshit that they're pulling right now by challenging the counting. First, they made sure to prevent counting in some states, that you can't count any ballots received until the day of the election, while they also have to count votes that they receive on the day. And the election should be called election week. It should be called voting day, Tuesday, results day, Saturday, or something like that, where we don't all have to be like, hurry up, we need the results. Like, everybody's participating in this urgency that is understandable. It's impossible not to want this over with, not to want to be able to move on. I think everybody's got a little Michael Jackson tune geared up in their iPods. And we're ready to have a street dance party. If it weren't for COVID, I think it would be a street fuck fest, but I don't see that happening, unfortunately. Goddamn Fauci. I can't believe that they managed to blame the bureaucrat scientist guy who can hold still and speak into a microphone for a few minutes as if he's the issue with all of this. It's so crazy. So we're eager to reach this resolution, and it sucks being trapped in this liminal state of delayed gratification. It's also delayed fear. The stakes are so big. We don't know where it's going to go. It's working better than I thought. But let's back up, though. I mean, we're going to get to that. So Sunday, Monday, eating like shit. Tuesday, it's one of those wake up and go, oh God, here we go. This is it. Has there been any terrorist attacks? Has there been any domestic terrorism from, GOP driven, groups and individuals, the stochastic violence that the GOP has been very busy animating. America is a violent country. Our whole core is founded on exploiting people's pain and their desperation, and using violence to enforce a racial caste system in order to, buttress and cement the white supremacist foundation of the origins of the country. And I think that's over the years, and in a couple hundred years since, we haven't done a lot better. Things have improved, but we still are a culture that tolerates each other's pain. We tolerate violence. Violence is so normalized. You see a nipple or a wee-wee in a movie, and you're going to go blow up an Applebee's to try to protest because it's upsetting your children. But you show an episode of CSI Topeka, and it's nothing but Stab City. The camera will fly through someone's vagina and out their back. But like violence is so normalized in this culture. I play violent video game. I mean, it's not like I play all the sex video games. I can't afford a subscription to Leisure Suit Larry monthly. That's crazy. But I was actually thinking, just a random aside, that I think so many ways the left needs to be more creative with how it approaches issues. And I think one of them would be to do some activism, a little thing, where, hey, my issue is UBI. My issue is, universal trees for everybody. Plant trees. We should do that. But I think we should try to have people who die from lack of health insurance declared a disaster. Like, we should try to build memorials for them. We should try to account for those deaths. If 10,000 people were killed in a plane crash, they'd say, wow, that was a big plane. No, but if 10,000 people died it's 9/11, 3,000 people, there's memorials to that. There's entire industries devoted to 9/11. The military response was very lucrative. Osama bin Laden was one of the best fundraisers for the military industrial complex. They love that. I mean, it couldn't have been a better time for, companies that profit off of preparing for war. So we lose 50 to the two numbers I've seen verified, or at least like studied, were 45,000 a year and 68,000 a year. That was estimated is how many lives would be saved with Medicare for all. So let's just say 60,000 a year. I bet the number's actually higher than that. But we should have a memorial every year for those 60,000 people. This needs to be a disaster. This is a disaster. It's an ongoing human rights calamity. It's a crime against humanity, in my opinion. So it'd be an interesting way to approach this Medicare conversation by forcing people to say, "Oh no, that's not a disaster. Why are you trying to have a memorial? What are you talking about? A bunch of companies made profit off of those deaths. That's capitalism. That's not a disaster. That's the system working as it's designed to work. How dare you?" So I think we need to. I think that's a small idea or a small example of how I would approach it if I could just, make it happen. So somebody do that. That's exactly what's wrong with the thing. What the hell was I rambling about? Oh yeah. So Tuesday, now we're on the day of the election, and man, I just, everybody, you could just pick up on everybody's energy, just my own, and just seeing the kind of, I'm just picturing all those, like in movies where they have a battle, and like they line up on one side, a bunch of poor farmers on one side, a bunch of poor farmers on another side. So some fucking rich, feudal lords can, sacrifice the boys and girls of their community. Well, I think they were largely men, but the women were very much victimized during all conflicts, of course. They're just terrible. The fucking war. Ugh. Anyway, during those movies, though, they always have the slowness the calm before the storm, where there's like a priest guy wandering around in the back going, hey, do hodo hara, and like giving bull haircuts and stuff, and maybe a speech. But it's the silence that's scary. It's the calmness that's like, I think there's some shit going down. And we've been seeing the GOP ginning up potential violence, and we know the cops are on their side more or less. Emphasis on more. That's freaky. So the whole day was just pins and needles, and you're waiting for those first results. Novakovich Gambit or whatever the fuck, some town in Maine or something takes like it's like 5 people, and they did a vote, and I think Biden won that one or something. That's like one of those weird traditions. Some journalist 100 years ago decided that it matters because I think they're like the first place to report their results or something. Anyway, the results start coming in, and just doom scrolling on Twitter, doom watching MSNBC, CNN, and whatever clips float through the Twitter feed, checking news sites, looking at the New York Times map. They do a good job of that map, I think. And, looking at natesilver.xxx, an adult website that I frequent. Boy, hit me with that silver bullet, you comb over idiot. Dude, don't do the comb over. Don't do the comb over. Everybody knows. We all know. Take it from me. I'm the king of baldness. I went bald at 19. Don't do the fucking comb over. Okay? Just get used to your lumpy ass head. You weird little guy. I watched Moneyball the other day. It made me think about Nate Silver. So I couldn't take it though. I was ready to really watch. I feel an obligation as someone who offers up his opinions on politics and stuff, like I'm doing right now, that I should pay attention and I should try to take this stuff in. But I couldn't do it. I honestly, I was overwhelmed. I was like, it felt worse than being at the vet waiting for my temperature to be taken, or at the dentist or something, you know, not that I did have any access to healthcare or anything, but like it was this sense of anticipation that any moment we're going to either have a moment of elation, like I was hoping for, you know, in what looks to be the first sign of a blowout, Joe Biden has won Florida by 100 alligators to 10. That's how the math is in Florida. They have anacondas who work in the government. But, you know, we wanted all these signs, and it was a palpable, at least in the way that I'm plugged, my eyeballs are plugged into my computer monitors and my phone. There was a palpable wave of disappointment that flowed very strongly throughout. It was like when there's an earthquake offshore or the tidal wave comes in. It comes in big hard waves. So almost knocked a piece of Tupperware off my bed. That's how you know. You know, I had lunch. I had some old funky vegetables, because today is day one of getting back into fuckfest shape. In anticipation of 2024, when the pandemic is over, we can finally bang strangers without giving their grandparents the deadly plague. So the waves were hitting, and I was feeling it. But it was sort of nebulous. Like, I was like, what? I mean, obviously it was disappointment because it wasn't a blowout. It wasn't a repudiation of Trumpism. And it almost felt like if Biden were to blow it out, like, let's say this is all still like Tuesday night, the day of the election. If it were like going to be like a 60 to 40% win, which would be a blowout by American standards of the way elections go, or something even bigger, it would have been pretty clear fairly quickly that states that seemed like they were red were actually suddenly unexpectedly blue, because just so many people had 4 years of this stuff and couldn't take it and showed up to vote against Trump. As we've learned, there was enormous turnout. The motivations for and some very weird results out of the turnout too, in terms of racial breakdowns and COVID-19 places. I think there's a lot of nuance to all that stuff, and I'm not going to pretend like I have the correct analysis for understanding all of that. So lost my train of thought a little bit there, but. So this disappointment thing really hit pretty hard on Wednesday, and it made it so much more stressful, just picking up on everybody's like sadness as we're starting to see the results sort of coming in line with the divisions in the country, and Trump's getting decent number. It was clear that Texas was not about to turn blue. It's going to stay red. that binary of red and blue is so stupid. But it should be polka dot or zigzags. I mean, seriously, polka dot or zigzags. Could we please be fucking adults for once? And I was picking up on all that disappointment and feeling it, because you're realizing that, or at least it feels like it, that the other side, people who vote for Trump, are okay with it. I think there's a lot more nuance to unpack. I don't think they're necessary. I mean, I'm not defending anybody who supports him. If you don't identify his racism as a deal breaker, him making fun of disabled people as a deal breaker, his sexism, his admitting to sexual assault, all the women that have accused him of sexual, I don't want to say inappropriateness, because he's far beyond that. He's in the middle of a current rape case where he's refusing to turn over DNA evidence for testing. That's a very interesting thing to watch as things start to develop. His not paying taxes, his money laundering schemes over all the years with various mafia-connected characters globally and domestically. All these things. His lying, just his fucking hair. He combs his sideburns straight backwards over his ears. Although I actually think lately he's been not doing that as much. So maybe there is a little, no, obviously not. But the narcissism and the chaos and all of everybody who works for him going to jail, putting his kids in office in important government roles, not divesting from all these businesses and the corruption. You know, Jimmy Carter, I like to imagine like an alternative world where Jimmy Carter was like Trump with the businesses, but all he had was a peanut farm. So like he's just like, yeah, you do business with me, but you buy a bag of peanuts. Anwar, who's the Yasser Arafat? You want to do business? You want me to heal the Middle East? You buy a bag of peanuts. That'll be $6, sir. Oh wait, 80s prices. That'll be $2.25, sir. You know, don't pay me. Pay my son-in-law, Mr. Peanut, right over here. I love the idea of corrupt Jimmy Carter. You want me to build a house for you poor people? Well, you better grease the wheels. You know what I'm saying? Chunky, extra chunky, or smooth. It don't matter. Gangster Jimmy Carter. There you go. New character. All of this fucking nightmare. And I'm just trying to remind myself of some of the nuances, though, because I think that people are more confused and oblivious than we give them credit. Blame to society, but credit just in terms of understanding. Like, Americans are so ill-equipped to contextualize power relationships in America and to understand the ways that their government works for corporations, and corporations are fully integrated into the government, and the way that capitalism and racism and sexism are all deeply intertwined, not just with our history, our evolution from a genocidal slave country that inspired the Nazi Party to model a potential society in Europe off of what the American racists were able to achieve in the post-Civil War period. All of that. What the hell was I just talking? Fuck, just lost my goddamn train of thought. But the broader, like, we're in obliviousness, and people are confused, and people don't have this. We're not taught accurate history. We're not taught to think critically or to be comfortable with nuance. We're manipulated by mass media. We're manipulated by advertising from the very, very early ages. And all these cultural conditioning things as the the arms race of people slowly getting used to a certain kind of advertising, but then the mass media changes over time from, paper to radio to TV to, it's not exactly that linear, but these things, and then the internet and, magazines and internet and more internet, and then it becomes social media and news and people are getting practice manipulating. People are getting used to being manipulated. And so it evolves. Like I've said in a previous show, like we call Instagram people influencer. Well, not just Instagrammers, obviously, but like you're online and you have an audience, so they don't call you a marketer. They call you an influencer. It's the same thing. It just means that you are a tool for a corporation to influence behavior. Governments do this. I'm a broken record about Adam Curtis's documentaries, but the Century of the Self series on YouTube is absolutely critical, I think, if you're interested in this kind of thing. It's about the origins of public relations and using media for governments to control broad populations of people, both for corporate benefit. Said that weird. Both for corporate benefit and for government benefit, who are just all bought in with the same purpose in mind, which is to make sure people who are already rich stay rich and become more rich. And that's what's going to happen with Biden. I guarantee. Most obvious bet in the world. Will billionaires have more money at the end of Biden and beyond just like inflationary growth? That would be a fair assessment, I guess. I mean, I think billionaires should have all their money piles chopped down to about, my number is 50 million. I think that's fair. It should be less than that, but confiscate all wealth above 50 million at 100% taxes. You're never going to persuade me that $50 million is not enough to live an amazing life. You should be forced to retire if you have like $5 million. Like you should be like, oh, you won. You can go on amazing vacations. You can have awesome hobbies. You can have a great 70-inch TV. You can afford to wash your couch. You can have an amazing life. Food, all you want. Everything. You got 5 million? I know maybe that might be low if you're like 21 years old or something. But I'm just saying, like, the more people get money, the more crazier they become, the more they're able to influence government and societies and have influence over other people's lives. Well, fuck you. You've already got the money. You don't get to have any more influence. That's it. You're cashed out. That would be my plan. So Tuesday's rolling through, or Tuesday night, and the need for relief, what I sort of quote unquote realized, as I was just something I was thinking of, was just the disappointment was so powerful, and it didn't feel like Trump had won, because I think that would have been devastating. It would have been like, I've never been a hostage. Maybe this is a little hyperbolic. So it is, admittedly, but it must have felt like you're a hostage. It's terrifying. You're sitting in your own piss and shit because they won't let you get up. I don't know why I have to make that part of this story. The floor is very hard because you're at a bank. Al Pacino was running around screaming. That's a reference that's even older than I am. That's kind of impressive for once. But you're terrified and you don't know when it's going to end. And you know that there's somebody out there trying to do something. And one reason I don't like this analogy, because I don't think that Biden is like the rescuer in this analogy, and that's a little too much credit for him. It's more like the rescuer is like the cops who are then going to like mug you. But hey, at least it's a little better than being mugged by the hostage takers. But at least, so it's not a great matter. But I could imagine, though, that when it's finally over, that feeling of, oh, thank God it's over. I can unclench my jaw. I can take off my poopy underwear. I can move on. I can start to recover and dust myself off and put myself back together and finish depositing this $38 paycheck from Postmates. That's why I'm at the bank to begin with. I can do that. I can breathe again. And I wanted to see a world reject Trump, our country reject Trump. And it's happening, but it's happening in a much less inspiring way, a much less emotionally satisfying way, because it does seem like Biden is going to pull this out. For all I know, he might have. It might, like, there's right now we're at the point where everybody is on Twitter, at least, is saying that they need to call this race for Pennsylvania because it's so obvious that it's going to be Biden. So, but until it becomes like the official Wolf Blitzer, you know, hey everybody, it's me, Wolf Blitzer. Biden's the president. Like, and then it's official because he is our Lord and Savior. Jesus, Wolf, correct? Okay, there's nothing there. So it was kind of like a failed rescue attempt. And I was just, because I had this feeling that people just they were so close to like realizing that it's like a bully is beating up somebody and we're waiting for someone to step in. And then eventually we start to step in and enough people stand there and say, fuck you, you can't do this. And the group turns and the group says, oh my God, why did we let him beat this person up for so long? Why didn't we step in? But that's not what happened this election. What happened was some of us are stepping in, but the others started going, get him, keep punching him, bully, get it, keep doing it. We like this. We want more of this, which is also a reflection of the absolute incompetence of the Democrats. The fucking leadership of the Democratic Party is the number one asset that the Republicans have. They have to be, Marcos Moulitsas, the Daily Kos sellout, hack, that guy sent Nancy Pelosi, he delivered them himself. I think it was like 10,000 roses to her office in like 2018 or something. And just this disgusting, penny loafer licking nonsense. Does she wear penny loafers? I don't know. She probably wears $100 bill loafers where that's the money she uses to buy ice cream. I do hate her for those refrigerators and an ice cream, but it's like, I hate her more for the policies that she's espoused over 30 or 40 years that have helped devastate entire communities for generations. That's worse than rich people ice cream. Anyway, so yeah, I think that the amount of disappointment was looked at from a different side. Like if you took a thermometer and you turned it a little bit and there's a whole different markers, like the numbers are different on one side. It's like the same thing measuring, but it's like, oh, that other side was our need for relief. We just needed to feel the change. And when you get that, you get numb. It's a very abusive kind of scenario where you're being abused, where you're involvement with, and it's on you. You have your own, I don't like to use this term personal responsibility, but it is your own role, job, responsibility to manage it yourself. But I haven't always managed it well. I let the stress get to me sometimes. I'm kind of wired to get all this stress, and work has been stressful, money's stressful, the plague is stressful, being fucking horny all the time is annoying. All this shit, this is like this fucking year, so stressful. And it was like, oh my God, I think the sun is about to peek out from this cloud. And then the clouds go, no, that was just a little tease. Sorry, you saw a tiny bit of blue sky, but that was actually your imagination. Guess what? It's going to be rainy and stormy. So buckle down, dumbass. And that's when I was like, I can't. I'm just too overwhelmed. I got to go. I had to turn it off. I had to watch The Queen's Gambit on Netflix, which is a great show, by the way. I'm really digging it. It's really well done, really well made. And I was a chess prodigy myself. I got to tell you, I was a chess hero in high school. My brother was the captain of the chess team his senior year when I was a junior, and then I inherited the crown. So my senior year, I was captain of our chess team. I was number 3, and I lost a critical match against a bunch of orphans, this place called the Moose Lodge. Wait, no, did I lose that one? I don't know, but we did beat the Moose. Quick story. We had this kid on our team who was a freshman, and he was like, Queen's Gambit on Netflix, by the way, everybody, if you can't tell, is about chess. That's not a spoiler. It's called The Queen's Gambit. And it's about a person way beyond anybody I'm talking about. Let me be very clear. I can hold my own in a chess match if you want, I could do it okay. But I used to play Dave Kohler all the time at the Young Turks. It was great. But I miss my friend Dave. That sucks. But so we had a kid on our team, my senior year, this kid's freshman year in the high school. And he had been playing chess with his dad since he was like 3 or 4. It was like their dad-son bonding thing. And his dad would come over to the classroom where we did our chess meetings, and they were both amazing. They were both really good. And so he was rated nationally. He had, like, we were just a bunch of like the nerds in high school. And me and my brother happened to have a slight bit of leadership skills because we could speak to teachers without shaking. So we were the captains, our respective senior years. But this guy, he was our number 1, and nobody on the team could come close to beating him. I love the egos of the nerds in the chess class. I had one. I was with it. It was competitive. And this guy was amazing. So good. The Queen's Gambit would destroy him in a heartbeat. But nevertheless, it was so much fun to have this amazing power on our team. He was still like a young kid. He was like 13 or 14 or something, and he would wear Bulls jerseys and he would giggle. He would stand up while he played, and he would go, but he was a nice guy too. He wasn't always giggling. He wasn't like, he wasn't lost or something. But man, he just whooped everybody. This one team, they're like, guys, like, our number 1's never lost, and I go, our number 1's a freshman, and I made it seem like I was annoyed by it, but I knew, and boom, fucking killed him. It was so much fun. I just loved having that guy. It was so cool. That's when I peaked. That was my peak. Some guys scored touchdowns in high school, and I knew a kid 4 years younger than me who could beat other people at chess. What the fuck am I talking about? Oh, so I gave up on two. I couldn't watch anymore. It was really hard to pull away because you get stuck in those FOMO loops, the fear of missing out. That's the word that's supposed to mean. And I wanted to check in. I wanted to see, but after a few minutes, it is addictive. It does feel like a pull, like a compulsive kind of drug. And this is the election. This is huge news. So I've been on my phone a bunch this week, but I didn't look until I went to bed around like 9 or something. I didn't look until 2 or 3 in the morning. Finally, didn't see. I was worried there'd be violence. I was expecting there to be some sort of incident involving Trump people attacking somebody, some mass shooting. And that's something I was trying to say a little earlier, but like this week has been crazy and stressful and full of worry and a real weird, like a roller coaster, but it's not even really ups and downs, but more just like a roller coaster where you're like, where it's always twisted up. Like you're always upside down. Like it just goes straight, but you just can't ever get the blood out of your head because you're hanging. It's been feeling just this relentless numbness, this anticipatory. I know something's going to happen. I don't know when. Steve Kornacki is on MSNBC whooping it up with his arms moving around. John King on CNN, who apparently was married to Dana Bash, and they have a kid. That's for some reason people were talking about that. I saw. I don't know why. Who cares? It's not like Andrea Mitchell, who's married to Alan Greenspan, one of the worst gargoyles of the 20th century in terms of economic policy. So rough going though, because Wednesday now, it's like, okay, come on. I got to do my podcast. I got to do a thing. I got to email that guy. I got to work on this thing. And no, I could barely do anything. Just watching this shit. Some stuff, but hard though. Long days, waiting for results, seeing what people are saying on Twitter. So I also had to give it up on Wednesday too. I was just like, this is enough. I got to get out. This whole thing is crazy. So then where are we now? Thursday. Today's Friday, right? Thursday, pretty much the same story. Luckily, not seeing a lot of violence, not seeing a bunch of devastation, but we're also, so kind of rewind back to the disappointment wave on Tuesday night. But this whole conversation has been happening all week, is blaming the Democrats. And it's another one of those mixed, depending on what angle you like, those art installations where it looks like the map of the United States and then the camera tracks around at 90 degrees and then it's just a bunch of guns hanging from the ceiling or aligned, so that the perspective really shifts depending on how you approach it. And it's been like that because the Democrats have earned, not the right word, a historic victory by gaining more votes for president than ever before, which is kind of bullshit. It doesn't track with population. It's more percentage turnout, in my opinion, but it's still a high percentage compared to most elections in America. And they've unseated an incumbent president, which is rare. H.W. Bush lost to Clinton. Jimmy Carter lost to Reagan. JFK lost to Lee Harvey Oswald, played by Scott Bakula in TV's The Quantum Leap. Right? That's history. There's been other one-term presidents, but it doesn't happen much, especially in this era. So the Democrats could make a case that they should congratulate, and they could congratulate themselves on getting over the finish line. Nancy Pelosi came up. I didn't prepare any audio for today, or else I'd probably play this one. But she said that we didn't win all the battles, but we won the war. What fucking war did you win? So it's weird that even though the Democrats are quote unquote victorious, they also are being looked at as if they were huge losers. And I'm coming down on the side that they're giant fucking losers for allowing it to be this close. What kind of ineptitude? The same stupid people who ran Hillary and imposed her on this process because it was her turn, who lost to Trump the first go round, were in charge the second time. Maybe that wasn't such a smart thing. Robbie Mook, who was Hillary's campaign manager, just a colossal failure, just a complete fucking joke of a person. He was in charge of I don't know if it's DCC or the DNs, but he had a very high position with getting congressional victories. And the House, who, with all this historic turnout, with all this blowback against Trump, which, by the way, the polls seem to be way off. It's going to turn out for Biden, and he's going to win the popular vote by 4, 5, or 6 million votes, which in any other functioning democracy, that would mean he is the by and large, or the massive winner. If we did if we did proportional representation of the Electoral College, or just got rid of the Electoral College, which of course we should do, and just do straight voting, majority wins. The Republicans would never see office again if we did that. And we should do that. The country should have to adapt. Politicians should have to work within what people are asking for and demanding. They dictate policy here because they are the ideological descendants of the rapist, slave-owning, human trafficking founding fathers and the racists who fought to maintain slavery in the Confederacy. Plenty of blame to apply to the North. I always want to make sure that we don't just act like the North was some sort of non-racist, fantasy land. Nothing could be further from the truth. But just like now, they're better than the conservative Confederate flag-waving monsters who are, hopefully Trump will be the final one. He won't be, unfortunately. There's 3 of them on the Supreme Court or more. It's horrible. So the Democrats deserve credit for this being such a squeaker. Like, this is the best we could do, was putting up Biden. I've been biting my tongue quite a bit recently, just because I think going after Biden in the run up to this, I wasn't going to persuade anybody anyway. Not that I was trying to persuade anybody not to vote for him. I voted for him. I voted against Trump. I think that was, to me, that's the rational thing to do in this scenario. But the moment he's in, and it's already starting, and I'm glad to see it, I will gladly participate in it too. He has to be held to as severe a judgment and an accounting as possible. He has a terrible record. He has and he picks Kamala, who was this awful campaigner who did a terrible job in the primaries. She couldn't win any votes. She has it off. Saw just a thing just recently. Sorry, let me just look on this. Her brother-in-law, Tony West, led the campaign in California to pass Prop 22, which you may have heard of, is the gig worker proposition. If you wanted to prevent these companies from being able to carve out their quote unquote independent contractors, their drivers. I've worked for Lyft. I've worked for Postmates and DoorDash. I've done this work. I've worked for TaskRabbits. They spent over $200 million using their own platforms. People getting rides on Lyft and Uber had to, see ads every ride they picked up. Drivers saw ads every ride that they picked up was to say, vote yes for 22, vote yes for 22. So it passed. Californians, this liberal bastion state, passed that. They also shot down a rent control thing. There's another funding thing that they like. This prop system in California is fraught with problems. Prop 22 has a provision in it that states only 7/8 of the vote of the legislature can overturn any part of it. That is an enormous hurdle. 2/3 would be a gigantic hurdle. 7/8 is huge. That is insane. So this will allow these companies to not pay benefits. They don't have to call their workers employees, even if they work full time, and they get to maintain them as independent contractors with some minimum guarantees and a bunch of bullshit. But they're just basically forming a new class of workers that are. It's a feudalistic kind of system. It's such an exploitative thing. It's so crazy. The worker shoulders so much of the burden in this relationship. They provide the vehicle. They provide the health insurance. They provide the vehicle insurance. I know that some of these companies offer programs where you can sign up for insurance. That's just another part of the scam. But the worker is doing all the work. They're taking all the risk. They're putting their life on the line. Driving is a very dangerous thing to do. I barely made any money doing that shit. It was so many stressful, long, angry days. I would play podcasts and just go numb and just try to get through it as best as I could. I delivered to Matt Damon once, actually. I'll tell that story on my Patreon. What if that was the only thing on there? 10 years from now, I'm like, guys, check out my Matt Damon story on the Patreon, okay? Easily recognizable. I had no doubts about it. He came up to me with his shirt off, hopping while putting on a boot, and he said he's got to go see about a girl. So, fuck Prop 22 for passing. Fuck all these people. Kamala Harris's brother led the effort. Her niece, Mina Harris, is on Uber's diversity team, and her ex-campaign strategist advises Uber on labor relations. Now, does that mean that's Kamala? No, but we know who her people are. She led a massive investigation as California DA in California into the Catholic Church. There was a pretty substantial investigation. A lot of victims were being re-traumatized and by having to fight for some justice. It's a very emotionally hard, difficult thing to be. You're forced to become an activist because the church that your parents took you to they raped you. That's a a life sentence of a sort, a stolen life of a kind. And they were maybe going to find some justice, and Kamala quashed that investigation. She looks after the powerful. She ain't going to be any different in politics. I think it's historic. I not just think it is. She's probably going to be the next president. I'm not sure that Biden has the kind of dementia where getting the world's most scrutinized and stressful job makes it better. I got a sense that he might not mentally handle it well. Although he will get some of those good Superman steroids that they gave Trump, and he'll get, doesn't have to drive. I guess that's fun. My hope is that Trump decides he can fly a helicopter and takes off on it on his own. I just think that'd be hilarious. It'd also be funny if he goes golfing this weekend. How funny would it be if he's golfing? He just sets up a coup, goes golfing. So, this Prop 22 passes. These companies that misclassify their employees as independent contractors do it so that they don't have to pay their share of Social Security taxes or payroll taxes. They don't have to, pay them more. Or I mean, some companies will do it and then still pay you like an employee. That's fucking ridiculous too. And it's just it's incredibly exploitative. They don't, it's just purely a codification of deeply rooted capitalistic exploitation, and Prop 22 passed. So it's really disappointing. I guess there's some chance that it'll be challenged in court and then potentially overturned. Legal-minded folks. I saw some guy writing a thing about it, but who knows? It's possible, but I don't have a lot of hope for that. So the Democrats put up these milquetoast, shitty-ass candidates. Biden, the point I've seen Sam Cedar make over the last several months on his show, the Majority Report, that I agree with, is that the pandemic has done him a lot of good. There's a video of Biden being challenged by, not even challenged, just asked by a Latino fella about deportations and stuff. And his first response is just, "You should vote for Trump. You should vote for Trump." And he just sort of huffs off and walks off. And there's multiple instances he was a real shitty to the Sunrise Movement. He's just been one of these freaking, terrible, like, I don't know what it is. Like, he's a good retail politician in terms of speech giving, but his emotions live front and center in these instances. So him being away from crowds, him being away from hecklers, getting under his skin, where he has to whip out a chain and let people comb through his beautiful blonde leg hair, like he claims kids at the swimming pool liked to do. He got to hide in a basement and do limited appearances. So the Democrats are going to congratulate themselves, and they're already starting the process of blaming the left. There's been some reporting that Nancy Pelosi has indicated that the answer to this issue, she's running for another office, of course, or another role as the leader, which is a fucking disaster. She's an awful, awful person and leader. She's presided over tremendous losses of power in the Democratic firmament, as has Chuck Schumer. The Democratic leadership needs to go. They're so bad. They have no business claiming that they should have any role. I think all incumbents needed to be ousted. Maybe not every single buddy, but when a nation loses 240,000 people, whatever the number, 70-80% of that was preventable, something like that. We still would have lost some people in this pandemic. And it's about to get so much worse. The other day, Thursday, if I'm recalling correctly, it was like 116,000 new cases of COVID in America, which was more than Japan has had the entire epidemic, the entire time. Epidemic and pandemic, those are cousins, right? Those aren't necessarily exactly the same thing, right? So, horrible results. So the Democrats lost seats in the House. They're down. They're still the majority. Nancy Pelosi will still be the leader if there's not a challenger to come up and try to force her out, which will be, I don't know. I feel like since we're returning to like the hits, we're basically playing like a song that was popular in the 70s with Biden, that they're also going to want to maintain this for Pelosi too. It's so disgusting. She has no right to be anywhere near power. She's a terrible person. It's fucking a disaster. the hell was I just saying? But just complete, I kind of forgot my train there, but it's just complete negligence by the Democrats in the way that they ran this. They wasted all kinds of money on Amy McGrath trying to, I think she raised $88 million. Jamie Harrison, the guy who was, Amy McGrath was Mitch McConnell's challenger. He is the leader of the Senate. I'm saying that because I know I have British people that listen. I don't know, somehow, maybe you guys just like the last name because I have a British last name. Is that what it is? I don't know what it is. But Mitch McConnell was a goon. He's like Dracula would be scared of Mitch McConnell. He's literally been turning into a zombie lately. I don't know what medical condition he's got. I'm not trying to shame that, but the guy's hands have been like rotting, and he's got like it's a nightmare. Google Mitch McConnell's hands if you never want to be hungry for the next week. And the Democrats lost to him. Because the Schumer and Schumer's the Senate leader of the Democrats put up a shitty progressive or a shitty milquetoast neoliberal Republican light nonsense candidate. There was a good progressive in that race. The guy Jamie Harrison, who was challenging Lindsey Graham, he got beat pretty good. It's not a guarantee that the Republicans will control the Senate. I'm pretty sure that's still true. I know that one of the Georgia races will be a runoff, and I think both will be a runoff, which means that they're going to decide that in January. Again, this information could be a little out of date, but so forgive me if I'm wrong here, but if those two races go Democratic, it will be a 50-50 split, in which case Kamala Harris becomes the tie. Did I say at the beginning? God, I'm getting so... no, I didn't. I told my mom that this morning. My mom thinks someone in her building has COVID. If for good reason, the woman can't taste and she has a bad respiratory condition. So I'm like, oh, yeah, well, don't make out with her. So Democrats performed horribly. They lost seats in the House. They should have picked up seats. They didn't underperform expectations. They failed. It's almost like they're working for the same people who'd fund Republican campaigns. Weird. It's almost like the billionaires who are going to be many, many billions richer at the end of the Biden era. It should be error, right? Got him. Are all the same class of industrialist gargoyles who are vampires, who are sapping this world dry as fast as possible. They need to be stopped. So why did the Democrats lose seats yet they won the presidency? It's because they refused to court Latinos. They failed miserably. I recommend the episode of the Bad Faith podcast with Brianna Joy Gray and Virgil Texas of Chapo fame. Brianna Joy Gray, I really like her a lot. I've been a fan of Michael Brooks' show. Rest in peace, Michael Brooks. God, that sucks. It sucks that that guy's gone. But she was a regular on his show, and Sam Cedar and stuff, and she was Bernie Sanders' campaign contributor. Plus, she's a big Star Trek fan, so I really appreciate her on Twitter and on her perspective. But she and Virgil Texas did a good breakdown from a lefty perspective about all this stuff. They covered a lot of it because she worked in a very, well, let's not say successful, I guess, since Bernie didn't win. But I mean, they were the front runners for a long time, so she has very good experience with how this stuff works. The Democrats ran a shitty campaign, and they ran a campaign that was donor safe because they refuse to run on progressive promises, on progressive priorities. Everywhere that a progressive ballot initiative was presented, it passed. Arizona passed a tax increase to fund schools. That is insane in America. And it wasn't a huge margin. It was like 4 or 5% or something like that. But it was an unquestionable endorsement of increasing taxes so that we could educate children. That's what the evil socialists are up to. Oh, they just want my kid to think for herself and not be susceptible to all this bullshit and build a future that's healthy and good because they had a good childhood. Monsters. Legalization. Oregon passed a law decriminalizing all drugs. Possession, I think there's, like, if you have bricks of heroin, you're probably still going to get in trouble. But you can now possess, I think it's like mandatory. I mean, I don't think it's you're free to go type of thing. I don't know exact details, but it's a enormous shift, and hopefully will work. And I believe it will work. It's been done in Portugal. They completely reoriented. That's right. I did read some of the language of it, where it converts. It explicitly states this is not a criminal problem. This is a health problem. We need to treat it like that. So, Oregon now will be, hopefully it's not bulwark. What's the right word? Spear point? I don't know. There's some metaphorical term. If it works there, well, just like Prop 22 is going to be a model for other states that are going to try to steal employee, the benefits and rights that people deserve and force them to be permanent, feudal, subservient gig workers. But that works in a positive way too, where if it works well in Oregon, it's a model to roll out in other states. Because it's utterly fucking ridiculous that any drug is puts someone in a cage for someone who has a possession of a drug with them. You just take someone's life, you spend a whole bunch of money. It's all just this racist war on drugs that originated in the 60s because the explicit use of someone's race, although that still, of course, is a thing, became, oh, we think we smell marijuana. Oh, we have a drug. The dog indicated that you have drugs, so we're going to put you in a cage for 15 years. We're going to search your car. We're going to break down your door. Oh, weird. No, wow, we're only really applying it to poor black people and brown people and poor white people. Oh, and by the way, we'll send a camera crew along and make it an entertaining show. We'll do that a whole bunch. We'll enlist all of Hollywood to make propaganda so that people get this idea that cops are actually good, big-hearted sweeties who can solve problems. There is the occasional bad cop show. The Shield, for instance. So Democrats, why did they lose? They didn't motivate the left to come out. I think I don't know what the numbers are in Bernie voters who voted for Biden. I imagine it's probably north of 85%, just like it was for Hillary. Bernie was out campaigning his ass off for Biden because he's the guy believes in what he believes. He was out. He's not a Biden guy, but he's a fighter and he works hard and he's a loyalist. He's lived in this. I get annoyed when people criticize Bernie. I don't think the guy's immune from criticism or anything like that, but I'm sorry he's not the perfect lefty that we want him to be, but he has carried the flame and done more than anybody else in this fucking continent to keep this mission going. And he has spread that. Fire is also bad metaphor because fire is, it gives and it takes. It doesn't it? It's as a woodworker, I have a complicated relationship to fire, That's why I don't burn down my wooden piles of wood. It's weird how wooden pile and pile of wood are two very different but they're not. Huh. All right. There you go. Podcast over. No, that would be a weird thing to end on. So why did the Democrats lose seats? Why is the Senate going to be so damn close? Probably going to go to the Republicans, which will be a freaking nightmare. That's a really bad case scenario for anybody who wanted advancement. I actually think there might be some arguments to be made in a different direction on that. But it's because they went Lincoln Project. They brought in a bunch of Republican propagandists like Steve Schmidt, the guy who brought us Sarah Palin, Rick Wilson, this grifter. They're good at making videos. They have pretty fast turnaround. They're Republican propagandists. And they're going to get deals to have a media apparatus, make shows and podcasts and shit and probably it's paid off very well for them. And they were all very well paid for this. It's just another scam because that's donor safe. The billionaires, the wine cave, Pete Buttigieg billionaire people are driving this boat because if they actually went for Medicare for, I was finishing my thing about marijuana. This all folds into the same point. Florida passed a 15, I know this is not marijuana. Let me finish the marijuana. Okay. Goddamn, Hank. Everywhere that they presented that medical marijuana was on the bill, it passed resoundingly. Everywhere. Not a single one failed. Progressives did extremely well. Cori Bush won in Missouri. She was a Ferguson activist who forced to become an activist because of the trauma her society inflicted on her. And now she's a congressperson from Missouri. The first nurse, the first black woman to be a congressperson from Missouri. And it's amazing. I'm really happy to see that. So the squad is done great. AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Pressley all were reelected handily. Katie Porter won really strongly. I love Katie Porter. I think she's fantastic. So the progressives are on the march. The Democratic Socialists are pushing hard. Their coalition expanded. All these progressive policies did better. Florida passed a $15 minimum wage thing, proper, I don't know what they call them, but a ballot measure, resoundingly. People are for this stuff, but the Democrats don't run on it. I know Biden said he's for a $15 minimum wage. We might see some $15 minimum or some proposals in that sense. The needle is shifting that direction slightly, but sorry, I'm jumping ahead, leapfrogging over let me finish this thought. They don't run on that shit. They don't run on Medicare for all. Biden wants to build on the ACA, the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, which is just maintains for-profit insurance, the thing that we should declare a national disaster every year for the tens of thousands of people who we let die. That's what I was saying earlier. Biden's for that because his donors are for it. Because if they actually made these big promises to fight and progress, to push progressive initiatives, it would they would have to try, or it would push them even closer to being forced to try. And they don't want to do that because it would disrupt the profit taking that their donors are enjoying because they're all part of the same corrupt grift. Plus, it has the side benefit of forcing lefties, myself, you, everybody else who wants to fight for this stuff, to fight for the obvious shit, like Medicare for all. Biden's victory would have been unquestionable had he gone into this election loudly and vociferously fighting for progressive priorities like Bernie would have done. I'm not going to belabor this point. I've been hearing it being said. I agree with it. Obviously, I'm biased in this point is particularly, but I think Bernie would have fucking mopped Donald Trump. Bernie is a piece of granite. He wouldn't have been shaken in a debate. He would have been as sharp as he is now. He's a very old guy, but he's not mentally degraded like Biden is. But his policies are rational. I'm not saying conservative voters are automatically rational. I'm saying that people are for liberal and progressive policies when they're explained in simple terms. And that's Bernie's magic, is that he is the same. He says the same thing over and over and over. It's boring. It's predictable because he's right over and over and over. And he would have been an amazing advocate for socialism and for all that stuff. And he's not even fighting for socialism. He's fighting for a more of a highly regulated capitalism kind. I imagine he understands that long term there's phases to that. I don't think it's a simplistic thing, but a guy making it easier to form a unions still exist within a capitalistic framework. So anyway, it's sort of heartbreaking to see that because when people are presented with progressive policies, they tend to go for them. They do. It's a fact. There was another thing I was just about to get into. God damn it. I hate it when I do that because it's so annoying to go back and listen. So it's kind of okay. This is sort of the next part. Let's say we have Mitch McConnell in charge of the Senate, meaning the Democrats aren't, and they can't just push through stuff. I think that's actually better for corporations and for the Bidens of the world. They want a gridlocked government more than they want one where the expectations of change are supposed to be there. But what that means is so stock market prices have gone up. Healthcare insurance companies have been going up in the stock market. That's an indicator that investors, the vaunted investors, the rich people are all okay. They're seeing their future being secure because they can just and that's the whole thing about changing industries. And like, let's say we did finally pass Medicare for all. We did destroy the medical insurance industry. Okay, they just move their money somewhere else. So what if that fucking industry dies? That industry kills people. The asbestos industry doesn't need to be kept alive either. So it's probably a relief to the Democrats because they're all basically bought in with the billionaires and the ruling class, the industrialists, the media moguls. That the less change, the better. And now they're going to have to refocus the way they assign cabinet positions and potential judge confirmations, although it's very unlikely that Mitch McConnell is going to do anything approaching the right thing. He's not going to confirm any judgeships, and it's going to be really stupid and unfair to the American people. There might be some kind of COVID relief. I don't know if they can go 2 years without doing anything on that. It's an utterly disastrously shameful thing that we live in a country that has only sent out a few months of unemployment assistance, which they screwed up. I mean, I was very lucky. I got it. I got $600 a week. That's helped me tremendously. It's helped a ton of people tremendously too. But they don't want to make the same mistake of helping people too much. That would be really bad for the precarious class, the precariat that is so necessary to keeping this capitalistic grift in America going at full steam ahead. So it's very unlikely it'll be substantial. I would be surprised if, let's say, the Democrats had taken the Senate, that it would become $600 a week after that too. But maybe something more than one check for $1,200. Like, how about $2,000 a month? How about $1,800 a month until it's over? The government just gives you the money because they know that the money, it belongs to everybody, meaning everybody's going to spend their money. It's all government issued funds, and it goes back into the economy. It keeps people whole. It helps people stay out of debt, maybe even save a little bit for when it gets rough again. Money flows into the landlord's banks. Into the landlord's bank accounts, and then from their accounts into their funders' accounts and those mortgage payments. Like, the money, the way American government is handling this is they're terrified that people will get the idea that the government can be a force for good, that there's actually a whole different way of conceptualizing the role your society is supposed to play. It doesn't have to be adversarial and cumbersome the way like the taxes are, that we have this predatory tax system. I don't even mean the tax rates. I just mean the preparing and filing of your taxes. It's so confusing and weird and complicated. And they already have all that information just so that these fucking tax prep companies can charge a bunch of money and make a bunch of money every season out of it. So I'm betting that the Republicans will maintain control of the Senate, and the Democrats are going to be alleviated of the burden of having to make too many changes too quickly. Things could change quickly in general. I mean, like, Biden could collapse someday. Maybe he gets, I don't know if he drinks or not, but maybe he gets drunk and steals the White House Lamborghini. So any predictions during this time are kind of rough going. It's just such a difficult and weird time. So I'm just checking Twitter really quickly to see if there's any, because it would probably be all over it if they had called it, but nothing yet. The GOP is amassing at voting centers, and the right-wing crazies. As much as it's been somewhat peaceful, they did arrest two people. The one guy had a handgun and a long gun with its serial number scratched off, which is a major federal weapons violation. So there's that. So at least they caught him before they went and shot up a polling place. Trump is pulling this old bullshit. It's really fun's not the right word, but I'm grateful to see him struggling, being sad, being a whiny little bitch that he always has been, spewing lies and spewing bullshit. And the thing is, though, he's a cult leader. His people believe what he tells them. They're bought in. They're fully on board with his version of reality. I don't know why this metaphor always hits me, but I just imagine the inside of their skull like a movie screen, like the first movie theater where the train almost hit everybody. That the train people jumped out of the way because they thought the train was going to exit the screen. That's roughly the sophistication we're talking about. And there's no future. There's no past. There's only whatever frame, whatever narrative is on display, and Trump projects it onto people's skulls. I don't know why the inside of the skull is where I always go to, but so the information they're working with is that the Democrats, who are all pedophiles and Satanists, are actually going to steal this election that their dear leader deserves to have. They've been lied to for years. Once you're wrapped up in that, it becomes very difficult to unwrap yourself from it. So a few things could temper that, like Fox News is probably going to catch a lot of flack for calling Arizona before other media companies did. If there's one thing these dictator wannabes and these fucking weak ass coward little bitch loser men that are on the GOP do, it's they don't look at. They're okay once the winning is going well, but they'll start turning on each other quickly, especially these careerists that are looking for, Bolsonaro, the dictator of Brazil, made a comment like Donald Trump's not the most important person or something like that. Like, they're not circling the wagons. These are not wagons circling people. Once it's obvious that there's a much bigger wagon circling around them. Let's not. Oregon Trail was fun. I was captain of the Oregon Trail Club in high school too. We had this kid. He wore a coonskin cap, and he was great with the pixel shotgun. Oh God. So, I'm looking for things that'll temper it are the parts of the right-wing media that can't. There's no evidence for any of this fraud stuff that they're claiming. There's a video going around of people doing some stuff with some ballots that turned out to be from Russia like 2 years ago or some shit. So if anybody's easily persuaded into believing some bullshit based on spurious at best evidence, it's these right-winger people. People in general have a bias towards confirmation. They want to see things the way it reaffirms the way they already believe, but they're just being projected that narrative right into their movie screen inside their brain, and that's all they get. That's all they're able to process, and they're moved on to the next thing super quickly. Donald Trump sent his fucking kid. If that's not dictator shit, I don't know what is. His lawyer and his son to Nevada, that vampire Eric Jr., to stand there and act like there's some big crime going on. It's like, come on. Great point, Hank. Really well. Nice and articulate there, dumbass. And the other thing, but one of the other things that'll like maybe kill off some of the energy for violent revolution, although I still think that there's going to be some sort of domestic shooting or incident. These guys have been training. They have itchy trigger fingers. It is fun to dress up like G.I. Joe and, run around. There's a video of dudes in a PT Cruiser preparing to use it as an assault vehicle and jump out of it with their guns aimed, and they're all ready to fight. All to make sure that Jeff Bezos can continue to buy the mansions surrounding his mansions, and so that Betsy DeVos can manipulate children and that's a weird way of phrasing it. Can be a terrible, influence in children's lives so that she can own more yachts. Also, these rich motherfucking vampires can continue grifting their societies and, draining. The Waltons can drain resources out of every community that they put up a Walmart nearby, that they destroy small businesses. So you guys are gonna these fucking numbnuts, because they believe the racists that their media tells them to, the right wing media that they consume. But the rats are going to flee. We're going to start seeing, like, Nikki Haley, a rising star in the GOP. I think she was governor of, South Carolina, and she was Trump's ambassador to the UN or something. But she's been a total Trump toady this whole time. She made a tweet that was a little ahead of its time. It was like a day or two ago, and it was like, we owe Trump a big debt of gratitude. She was still bootlicking, but it was also sort of ass on your way out kind of bootlicking. They were reading the tea leaves a little bit on that one. But once the rats start to go, once the rats realize that the Supreme Court, I know that the GOP has appealed to the Supreme Court today. That's very scary. I don't, who knows what happens if it's, I don't think they have jurisdiction over these election offices, but I'm not sure that matters anymore. And the other thing that's scary is that the Mark Levin, this one of these right-wing radio podcast guys, been around forever. He's kind of like if Rush Limbaugh got drunk and passed out in a barber shop, He has a beard. I don't think that's really that good of a, not even. But he's a total rotten piece of garbage. But he made his tweet saying like how we have to, or the GOP legislatures are not required to honor the election. They can just send whoever, because there's more of a formalized, the states send their delegates or something like that, and they have to actually have the meeting where they formally, offer the choices that were selected by the voters. But he said we can just pick who we want if there's GOP legislatures. I wouldn't be surprised if they try that. A lot of these state GOP legislatures, they're not honorable. They're not like integrity driven, dignity first type of people who are thoughtful and, they're going to, it's totally plausible. These are culty Trumpists. These are Trump skulls. These, most of them are. Some QAnon people got elected to this thing. So that's another danger, but it might be tempered. Like when the rats start fleeing, the people who want to have more of a future in politics, that could be a thing that finally deflates it, and it'll be really satisfying. I hope it breaks Trump. I hope he is devastated. I want his absence, not his suffering, but if he suffers, that's totally fine. Suffer, you fucking rotten monster. The amount of grief and turmoil and chaos and the stolen and the death and the stolen potential, the wasted time and potential of all the time we have to spend fighting these people. Same with Biden coming up. We're going to have to spend a lot of time. We don't live in a society that gives a shit about regular people, and we're going to fight for it. But this Trump is just brutal. And another thing that's about to be devastating, I'm pretty sure this is a good prediction, is the Republican Rehabilitation Project, which is already underway. Dianne Feinstein praised Lindsey Graham for the way they did the Amy Coney Barrett confirmation hearings. But Biden's going to lead that. Biden is going to he's going to come out with this mandate to heal America. I'm a president, and I want him to be the president for everybody, not just the Democrats. I'm not interested in a guy who thinks of who they're responsible for the way Trump does. But this is all that Republican praise fetishism that dominates the centrists who run the Democratic Party, that they're going to have to make sure that the Lincoln Project types are assuaged and comforted, and they're going to have very cushy roles and jobs within their media apparatus that they're going to build, plus the relationships that they have with the Democratic Party. They're going to make sure that the John Kasichs of the world and the Never Trumpers who spoke up a little bit get a voice. Meanwhile, AOC, who did a great breakdown on Twitter about all the failures of some of the establishment candidates, Democrats establishment candidates, was she's a very savvy politician and smart person and successful despite the odds. Her what do they call that? Freshman campaign. Sophomore would be your second one. Is that the right usage of those terms? Was an insurgent. I don't want to say miracle because she worked her ass off and she did a good job, and she's like magically in harmony with her generation with using digital stuff. So she's someone we should listen to. Progressives did great. The DSA endorsed candidates, I think, lost like 2 or 3 out of like 20 races. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's a huge percentage. If we leaned into that, we could ensure the Democrats and reform the Democratic Party. I don't want the Pelosi's and the Schumers, or even whoever might replace them is probably not going to be the progressives that I would like to see. But, that's the way forward. And I also think instant runoff voting could be a great way to help promote third parties and growing third parties. But that's a separate conversation. There's a lot to break down in that. But we're not going to get that. It's going to be a while. It's good to see the Progressive Coalition expanding. I'm losing my train of thought on where I was going with that a little bit. Talking to other people is so nice because you can think while they talk. I mean, you listen to them speaking, and I'm not saying I don't listen, but it's a break. See, because I keep losing track. But I think we're in for a lot of disappointment, I guess, is the overall thrust of a Biden presidency. Timothy Geithner, Larry Summers they're both still alive. So if they make a resurgence or reappearance into this cast of Biden's people, they're the financial economic advisors to Obama. I think one was the head of the Treasury and the Fed, but they were massive. They're high priests of the neoliberal order. They were easily some of the worst folks to ever operate in government. They make sure that the bailouts that Obama passed in 2009 and 10, was it 9? Were about cementing the George Bush tax cuts and giving money directly to the banks as opposed to giving money to people so that they could pay their mortgages. So they facilitated this massive abusive, exploitative recovery, quote unquote, package that left people in the dark, that made it possible for Steve Mnuchin, the current Commerce Secretary, benefited tremendously from those guys. So I would be shocked if we don't see those types come back, if not those two guys specifically. And Biden is going to be, this is what I was getting at, as I found my thread. I read a book about cave diving. This is how I lose my shit. Underwater cave explorers who scuba in pitch blackness with flashlights, and they use strings. There's what's the book called? Into Darkness or something. It's amazing. It's unbelievable how much people enjoy taking risks for fun. I mean, shit. And sometimes I'll just play Rocket League without my dongle near my groin. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. So Biden is going to he's going to expend more energy rehabilitating, maybe not Trump himself, but certainly all these Republicans, all these people he's worked with for decades, and I almost said centuries, it feels like it, for decades and decades. He's going to spend so much more energy making sure that America is okay with the child kidnapping, fascist enabling Republican Party, his buddies. He's going to spend more on them than on progressives and lefties who voted for him in massive numbers. The win in Arizona, there was a major marijuana law passed there, legalizing. I don't know the exact specifics, but it won by a ton. And it was I guess the activists busted their butts. And they believe that that's one of the reasons why Biden has any chance of winning Arizona. So all the loyalty, loyalty is not the right word. The lack of options. The only path forward for the left is by trying to push the Democrats. And that sucks because it's not it doesn't seem very effective. I will be stunned if Biden pushes for progressive policies. I think maybe there's a chance the $15 minimum wage will go through. That should have been done 10 years ago. That's not even progressive anymore. It's just basic decency. Shit, I'll probably need to get a job soon anyway if that goes through. So hopefully they do that sooner than later. And I hope I'm wrong that he's going to prioritize Republican health over rewarding people who voted for him and who fought for him and who showed up, and for the Bernie supporters of the world and the Bernie coalition and all that. But their donors don't want them to. It always comes back to who has the real power. Those strings that flow through Biden, those go somewhere. And they go to Jeff Bezos. They go to big insurance industry, big defense contractors, big banks, big lawyer law firm, all these big money donors. And it's disgusting. It's terrible. And so there's a lot of good reasons to feel a little despondent about where we're going next. It's better than Trump winning and going and being back by a lot. I'm looking forward to feeling some of this relief. This morning, we're on Friday, I woke up, I was like, I've been trying to take care of my head first in the morning. If I don't do my depression maintenance, it tends to stack up and it starts to become a problem. I've done it about half this week. I have not been great about it. But once I kind of get going, I can do it, whatever. But I try to meditate, do some stretching, and not look at Twitter until I sit down at the computer. Meaning, don't just reach for your phone first thing in the morning. It's 5 a.m, 6 a.m. I'm on the goddamn, doom scrolling machine. These fucking phones. And of course, I didn't do that this morning. I looked right away, and it looked like Biden had gained in Pennsylvania. Biden was ahead in Georgia. They're still not called as of right now. Wolf Blitzer is powering up. Hopefully, it happens soon. But this morning was one of the better of this week. One of the better mornings. It's like we woke up on the day 4 of the battle, and we're like, oh, good. What are some things that go 4 days? Tennis tournaments, golf, the Masters golf tournament. I'm sure everybody watching this or listening to this can relate. But it's like the Sunday morning is like that's like they whittle everything down to the final day. So today's what the hell's wrong with me? Demolition Derby stats. Here's how it works. No, I'm joking. So anyway, I wake up, I check it, and it's as predicted, but it's real because the numbers are in. No terrorism. No GOP terrorism. I was very glad to see nobody has been hurt. There's a ton of arrests, by the way, in Minneapolis. There's been protests. New York, cops are out psychopathically going after people. There's this great video of this guy standing around, and some dude approaches him, and he's dressed up in like a ninja suit, kind of face cover, eyes covered mostly, and he's like, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" I live here. I know a lot of people that live here. You don't look familiar. What are you doing here? And the guy's a cop. The guy actually gets up. The guy could tell that this dude was serious. The dude sniffed him out as a cop. And as the guy he's leaving, he lifts up his little jacket corner to show a badge. He's just a fucking plant. He's just an undercover pretending to be. It's just these cops are. New York police budget's like $6 billion. It's bigger than countries. It's crazy. So there's been some bad stuff happening. There's been some of this anti-democratic, anti-freedom, fascistic policing going on. Unicorn Riot is a great YouTube channel that does a lot of very they're like a socialist collective of a media operation, and they do very brave, good journalism. So this hasn't been all great, but there's been a lot less of it than I was fearful of. And it looked like this morning Biden was up. All the votes that are still coming in are going to come from heavily Biden leaning, Biden not just leaning, but Biden dominating areas, cities, and suburbs even. So it's more or less going to be a thing. Of course, the courts have to not get involved. I mean, we're still not there. We still haven't quite hit that point. We don't want to, there's the football guy who's got the runaway touchdown, who starts celebrating at about 10 yards away from the end zone, and he lets go of the football within 2 yards. He's not even crossed the line, and he's already celebrating before he crosses the line, and he lets go of the ball. That's got to feel great. It's got to be. But I felt so much better this morning, and I felt this sense of relief. Not the full relief I wanted on Tuesday. Not that sense of, oh my God, I actually do live in a good country. Well, let's not use the word good, but I actually at least the people have resoundingly said this is not okay. We don't consent to this kind of person being anywhere near power. But that didn't happen. But it was a slight feeling of that lifting. It felt like a curse being lifted, or some sort of like a possession ending. It must feel pretty good for the demon to finally leave your body. If you've seen The Exorcist, my favorite documentary, you can tell that, wow, that must be a relief. Like when you've ever had food poisoning and you finally pass out from all the exhaustion of barfing and onto your parents' floor. But you wake up the next day and it's gone, and you're like, oh God, this is what being alive feels like. This is better than barfing. This is great. So this morning, for the first time, I felt a little bit of that. And it's been a very stressful year, obviously, for not just me, I know, you and everybody. The pandemic is horrifying. Everybody's stressed out. Can't bang strangers. I mean, they stop being a stranger once you go out to Applebee's or something, Yeah, you got to be funny around a Diet Coke to talk about chess moves, and then eventually you go bang. It's nice. I miss dating. It was fun. I had some fun times doing that. That's one of my. I'm really eager to get back to it because I'm very, very tall. I'm actually not. I'm just perfect. I know that sounds weird to say, but 6'3", almost is what that's probably what you'd pick. Most men, I think, would choose 6'2" to 6'3", and I'm at the higher end of that. So take that, men. Take that, fellow suitors. Remember back in the day when you had to call a girl's house and you had to talk to her dad and be like, "Can I talk to Stacy? She there? This is Hank from 8th grade." I was not that kind of brave 8th grader. I didn't call on girls. Wow, having some weird memories right now. But it was a relief finally, and I felt it, like this emotional kind of weightlifting, to just be like, oh God, maybe there's a chance this is going to be over soon. This hostage we're almost out, and then we can start fighting the rescuer as soon as it's over. But I can catch my breath a little bit. So today is finally the better day of this last week in terms of stress and in terms of going. And I can even feel it in my mind. Like I can tell, like, I'm not saying, I've been really Twitter focused today. I'm sorry for that. I feel gross as much as I hate all this social media stuff. It's clearly occupies a unsavory amount of my brain space. And I find that uncouth. I don't think that's the right word. Anyway, I do express my thoughts on there, and I also write down stuff too that I want to say in the podcast or things I want to talk about in the stream maybe or whatever. I'm not super organized, so I could be a lot better. But I could just feel like I've been pursuing comedy as a career for 10 years. Poorly pursuing, but nevertheless, that's been like my primary. And I've written scripts, and I've written shit tons of stand-up, and I used to write a lot more essays. I'd love to get back to writing more long-form stuff. Writing was always my first creative outlet as a kid, as a young, weird teen. Although I actually had a propensity for drawing as a child. But I talked my mom out of it because it was boring. that's good. Mom, it's too easy. I don't want to go. Did that for about an hour, and she's like, "Fine, you don't have to go. I can draw planets anywhere." Yeah. So, why the hell did I mention that? I could just tell that my mind is like a little unencumbered. I can feel like some cobwebs got carried off in the wind, like in Lord of the Rings, where the king of the horse town, the guys with the blonde lady who stabs the bad guy in the face, the guy, King Reginald, who looks like shit. He's covered in sad eyes and gray skin, and he looks like crap. I don't mean the Game of Thrones gray skin. That's obviously different. I mean, come on, look it up in the DSM. Lord of the Rings. And then they finally lift the curse, and within a matter of seconds, he has a very Star Trekian transformation back to a fairly standard, albeit a little plump, middle-aged 50-something man, but a robust, good 50-something, like a healthy king guy from a giant lump of shitty potatoes. That's what this morning felt like a little bit. So that was good. That was nice. There's still so much more to go, but I just realized how being in this mindset of paying attention to the news, working in the news, working at the Young Turks. I edited Francis's videos over the last, before he and I got fired on the same day in January, but 2020. But I worked on his videos all the time, and he covered a lot of racial justice issues. So I would edit. And when you edit, you kind of go into a different sort of gear. You're sort of operating on a few different gears, and because it's a very technical, but you're also making creative decisions at the same time. And you do disassociate a little from the content. Sometimes I will finish a video and I will have very little idea what the hell I just worked on. Like, I know the story I told, I'm listening to all the words, I'm seeing everything, but I'm not consuming it like a person studying or watching something. I'm building it. So it's a different relationship with the material. But nevertheless, I still worked on a lot of like violent shit and police shootings and a lot of racism stuff. And it wasn't purely just racial justice issues, but those are a major part of our world now, sadly, and brutally. Why did I bring that up? Oh, just like over the last year, 4 years, like I worked for Jimmy Dore in 2016, leading up to Trump, during the 2016 election. That fizzled out after Trump was elected. So that job ended, and there was a lot of intensity to that work, and then there was another year, years of some stressful Postmates and depression and watching stuff. And I worked at the Young Turks for 15 months or so, starting in 2018, late October 2018, and so the exposure to all this has been cumulative, as well as just my own, negative achievement system of reaching milestones in life, and the way that your depression and your, especially in imagination combined with depression, can be pretty brutal on itself. And it's just how tired and exhausted this whole fucking time has been, and how much I want to make it better too, and I want to be better, and I want to work on stuff, and I want to connect with people, and I want to find other shows to be a part of, or invite onto this show and to connect. There's so many great people on Twitch. I'm liking a lot of what's happening, what I'm seeing there, and what people are up to. It's definitely seems to be going through a growth phase, although maybe I'm just biasing that because I've noticed it now, so it seems like it didn't exist before. But I'm very optimistic about what we can do. And I also have my woodworking project that I've been stalling on. This up through this election has been kind of dominating my brain and everything else. So I got to get that going. I got to get work happening. I got to make some money. Whatever. There's a big project going on, and I want to move out of LA. I want to get out of here. And I should get involved in more activism and stuff. I should get in with the DSA. I know some DSA people, and I know I'm ideologically right in line with them, and that would probably be a very good community thing for me to do. I have a hard time making connections with people. It just doesn't work all that well. So changes are afoot. I feel like maybe some of the bandwidth will be cleared, like some of the Trump malware is being removed. I hope maybe you're going through something similar. It's going to be replaced by Biden malware and neoliberal bullshit malware and all sorts of craziness. But that's better. It's at least we have more of a protocol for handling that. And it's probably going to be very frustrating. I would be, hopefully we still are able to make gains as far as building out the squad, right? And local politics, and maybe more ending war on drugs with ballot initiatives and stuff, and labor issues, and the union thing with TYT was a major part of 2020 for me. When they did all the union busting after the thing went public, that was fucking crazy. And that's still going on. They're not done. They're still negotiating. I've been kind of holding off some opinions and some things about that whole story because I'm trying to respect what I hope is a satisfactory outcome, because I believe that it'll make that a stronger, better place. I'm invested, not literally, but I mean, I'm emotionally interested in that working, not just because it was something I had a lot to do with in getting started, but also because I think it could be a force for more good than bad in general. So there's a lot more to say about that for sure in the future. So please stay tuned. All right, one more refresh just in case it's been called. Not that makes it completely official, but I have already written out my Trump tweet. I'm going to say to him, "You are fired." And I'm going to spell it YOUR. Fired. You fucking monster. So good stuff. Nope, I don't see it. Doesn't look like it's everybody would be freaking out. Like when there's an earthquake, everybody just goes, earthquake, oh my cat, earthquake, oh my dog, earthquake. Not happening right now. But all right. Okay. That's where we're at. Hope you're doing okay. I hope this was entertaining. I kind of like that I didn't produce any videos or anything. I just turned on the damn microphone and start yammering away. I might do this more. I keep having this idea of doing like a kind of like a Patreon, like just a free ramble. Just let it rip. Just open up the goddamn floodgates. Maybe pick a few things to talk about and just roll hard, straight on in the hopefully not delusional belief that the shit I say people would be willing to support and to pay for, to listen and whatever. So I don't know. We'll see. There's so much to do. It's crazy. But please come by on Twitch. As you don't have to have an account to check it out. You can just check out the archive on the YouTube channel. You can also just go to Twitch. The archive is up there for 14 days. If I reach certain thresholds, they keep the files longer, and I can start getting subscriptions or something. But it's kind of fun. I'm digging it. I'm getting emotionally prepared to go on camera, as I've been talking about a bit. I think that's going to change a lot. I don't think a lot of new people stumble across you and you're just a disembodied voice. I mean, that's not, people are less willing to give you a chance, I think, than if they can just watch your dumb bald ass sit there and look like an idiot playing Rocket League or something. So give it a look. Maybe eventually it'll happen. But I drew, it's fun to draw stuff. I want to do like improv cartoons, like where the audience says, draw a cat or draw a orange, draw a pear. And then we would draw a pear. I'm really good at shadows. I don't know. I think that's like my thing. Can you imagine like okay. I'd be so annoying at art school. I'm like really getting into shadows lately. And it's kind of like where there's less light, if you think about it. Thanks for listening. I hope everything's okay. It's going to be an interesting time. We're living through a very historic period. All periods are quite historic. We're all blades of grass in a sea of evolving layers of human archaeology that's being laid down. So someday you'll just be, if you're lucky, a trilobite fossil. Although they'll look at yours and go, oh, this one had metal in its head. This one had 2 metal bits on its chest for some reason. Not sure why anybody would do that, but okay. Apparently babies needed a barbell to hang from. They were very strange people with strange customs. We found a piece of skin. It appears this one was a fan of Blink-182. Must be the number of times she blinked upon finding out that Darth Vader would ascend to the throne. We found the stomach contents of one of them. Apparently this one thought a patty of pea protein was a burger, because we also found the wrapper it came in. Tasted better than, I haven't had one of those Beyond Burgers yet. I'd like to try it, but I can't fucking afford that shit. It's easier for me to buy the, growth hormone infested shit meat that I can dip in garlic butter and turn into a sriracha ball. Okay. Thanks for watching and listening and typing and subscribing. I know I've been saying goodbye for 20 minutes. I hope you're okay. I hope it's been an okay week for you. Not too stressed. We've got a lot of work ahead. I'm going to be a fountain of shitting on Biden. I'll give him credit where I think he deserves it when it starts to go down, but we're not yet quite at that phase, even though it ain't going to be anything close to what we deserve. So we're going to have to keep fighting. Hang in there. You're doing okay. It's going to get better. You're worth. You have worth. You are worthy. You're worthy of everything you deserve. Love, safety, peace, and beaches. Go to the beach and lay around like a sea lion on some rich guy's yacht and wait till he pokes you with a broom, and then you turn at him and you go, rah, 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 and he'll be like, dang, this dang sea lion's yelling at me. Okay? You're worthy of that. Do it. Goodbye.